everybody, it's Kenji from Riichi Mahjong Central here with a new how-to series when it comes to playing Riichi Mahjong. So a lot of you guys already know how to play Riichi, so we're not going to be doing that first. We will eventually be making our version of how to play Riichi Mahjong tutorial series, but we wanted to start this series off with a quick Mahjong manners and etiquette video because a lot of viewers out there already know how to play. Just a heads up, by no means this is the right way to play. We're not saying that this isn't the only way to play or right way to play. Just an FYI, we are doing this video mainly because we're part of the California Riichi Mahjong Alliance, CRMA. If you guys have watched any of our previous videos, you guys probably remember me mentioning that. So California Riichi Mahjong Alliance, the concept is to unite the California clubs to determine who the toughest player is or the toughest team or club is for that season or year. So yeah, this is pretty much what we follow, and we thought maybe, you know, there's some use if we kind of share this out to everybody. So hopefully you guys would see this a little entertaining or useful if you guys are planning to host a tournament or an event, or even within your league. You know, if you guys want to have some kind of etiquette manner rule set, maybe this video would be of use. So without further ado, let's dive right in. How to break the wall when we start a game. Whether it be automatic table or hand shuffle tiles, once you build your own wall, you want to bring your wall a little bit forward. Not too much forward, but just a little bit. And at the same time, you want to have the right side forward a little bit as well. Not the other way around. You don't want the left side forward. The reason why we do this is because we don't want a blind spot when the next person wants to draw a tile. Right? So if you have the right side forward a little bit, that eliminates the blind spot, and it also lets the other players draw the tiles a little bit easier. Right? What's next? The dealer rolls the dice, determining which wall to break from, and for the most part, the dealer is the one who should be breaking the wall, not the person who has the wall in front of them. Right? A lot of the times we see the people who's, you know, if, for example, if it's rolled 7 and I'm the person sitting at 7, I'll break the 7 for the dealer. Just to be nice, right? So that's all good in casual games, but when it comes to competition style at CRMA, the dealer would want to break the wall. And why do we do this? Why is the dealer the one that breaks the wall? Well, it's to prevent any mishaps, any count mishaps, right? For example, if I'm the one who's sitting at 7, I break the wall for the dealer and the dealer starts picking, and let's say that was incorrect, right? Whose fault would that be? So to eliminate any of those issues, the dealer is the one who should break the wall, at least for the CRMA tournament formats. If it's for casual games, by all means go for it, there's no problem, but that's just an FYI. Another thing is don't cut your wall, right? Once you bring your wall forward, I used to do this, I used to be guilty of this too, but cutting my wall 6-5-6. Why do I do that? It's mainly because, for example, again, if the dealer rolled 7 and I'm sitting at 7, if I cut my wall 6-5-6, it's easier for me and maybe even the dealer to find out where that 7 is, right? So I used to do that out of courtesy, but at the same time, there are different people who cut it in a different number. So wherever that cut is, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right place. So again, to eliminate any confusion, the dealer is the one who should, at least for CRMA, who should cut the wall and draw from there. So again, don't cut the wall. Next, the Dora indicator. So we want to flip the Dora indicator, right? Who does that? Sometimes the dealer does that. Sometimes, you know, whoever finishes sorting their hand first does it. But at CRMA official competition rules, if the wall is in front of you, if the broken wall is in front of you, right? That person is responsible for flipping the Dora, right? To avoid any confusion, that person should. When to do it, right? It could be, you know, before you start taking the tiles. It could be during, it could be after, right? Whatever it is, try to do it a little speedy, right? Before the discard of the first tile. And yeah, pretty much if it's in front of you, if the wall's in front of you, it's your responsibility to flip the Dora tile. Now at the same time, before you flip the Dora tile, you want to drop the Rinshan tile, right? Why do we drop the Rinshan tile? We do that because you don't want that, if somebody cons, right? You have to draw the Rinshan tile. You don't want anybody to know who that or what that Rinshan tile is, because they might plan their hand so it's a Rinshan Kaiho Tsumo, right? Just to be all fair, that is something that a specific person is only able to see. Whoever conned, that's the only person that should be able to see that tile, right? So drop the Rinshan tile first and then flip the Dora indicator. right? Once the door indicator has been revealed, everybody took their tiles, then we start the game, right? Sometimes we have the last person forgetting to take their 13th tile and the dealer already discards the first tile. That's a no-no. It's the dealer's responsibility to check to see if everybody drew their tile or not. For example, if the dealer discards the first tile and already starts the game, and the last person who is supposed to draw their 13th tile starts off with one tile short, right? And then people are going to be saying, oh, you're Shohai. That's a dead hand. We don't want any of those things to happen, so it's everybody's responsibility, but at the same time, it's the dealer's final responsibility to discard that first tile once you confirm that everybody has drawn their 13th tile. So that's also another thing that we want to look out for. All right, now some manners and etiquettes when it comes to actually playing in the game, during the game, once that's started. Don't slam the tiles too hard, right? We've seen a bunch of anime, a bunch of cartoons and mangas maybe slamming the tiles. Even some pros, they slam the tiles. It looks cool, it sounds cool, we understand it. I'm guilty of that too sometimes. But at the same time, competition rules when it comes to CRMA, don't slam the tiles too much, right? It's not going to change your draw or discard. It's going to be the same, so don't slam the tiles. Next thing is don't put the tile that you drew into your hand each time. There's different reasons why we don't want to do this. First, it takes time, right? That each time, and everything does add up. You don't want to cause extra time, especially if there's a time limit during any event. So that's one. Two, you don't want to have people doubt you, right? If you put the tile in your hand and say, oh, it was actually a Ping Fu Tsumo. There's no proof if it was a Ping Fu Tsumo or not, because Ping Fu has to be a double-sided weight, right? That's one of the requirements. So if your weight was actually a kanchan, you put it in your hand and say, oh, it's Ping Fu, you can't validate that. So we don't want anybody to miss out on stuff like that. So definitely it'll be best to put the drawing tiles on the side, right? It has to be obvious too, right? So some people, when they draw the tile, they switch it with a tile on the side. It's called kote gaishi. It's an old school trick that people used to use. Especially if you watched Akagi or Tetsuya back in the day, though, those moves, it's cool, I get it, but CRMA, that's a no-no. You definitely want to make sure and have an obvious tile, what came in, right? Tedashi tsumogiri, that's something that we say. Tsumogiri means if you draw a tile, you just discarding that tile. That's called tsumogiri. You tsumo it, and giri meaning discard, right? Tedashi means a tile coming out of your hand. Competition rules at CRMA, we want to make sure that everybody knows what tile came in and what tile came out, right? It's not mandatory to say if your tile was a tedashi or tsumogiri. Your opponents may want to see, what the information is, because it is information, right? So pretty much make sure that it's clear. Another thing that we want to mention during gameplay is don't touch or move your wall too often. Now, I'm not talking about your hand, I'm talking about the wall, right? I've seen people where they touch the wall when somebody else is trying to discard it when it's their turn. They kind of swap tiles, they cheat, right? To prevent any doubts and confusion, don't touch your wall during gameplay unless it's your turn to draw the tile, right? Or maybe the wall is getting a little short, and to be nice, you want to move the wall so other people's could draw it a little easier. That is okay, but do that when it's your turn to draw the tile from that wall, right? That's just an FYI to prevent any confusion and suspicion, right? Don't do that. At the same time, don't touch your opponent's walls. Sometimes, right, the wall's getting shorter. I see people connect their own or connect somebody else's wall with theirs or vice versa, right? It's to make things more obvious, but again, to prevent any suspicion of cheating and even, breaking the wall, right? So don't do that. It's probably safe not to do that. Your wall is your responsibility. Don't touch anybody else's. Another thing during gameplay is when you discard the tile, right? If you're already in that discard motion, that means you're going to be discarding that. If you already discarded the tile, don't be like, oh no, that was a mistake, I'm going to retract it and discard something else. Competition CRMA rules, that is a no-no. If it's discarded, it's already discarded. If you're already in discard motion, retracting it, that's kind of a gray zone. Try not to do that. You know, already be clear and determine what tile you're going to be discarding, and make that decision nice and clean and smooth. You don't want to waste time. So doing that, you know, discarding, oh, it's like, oh, I want to do this one, maybe that one. It's a waste of time. You don't want that to happen to you, right? Especially if there's a time limit. So that's just an FYI. Once you're in discard motion, suck it up. That's going to be your discard. Also during gameplay, you know, try not to cross your legs, or lean on the table. Have a nice posture when you're playing. And you know, we say this because if you're crossing your legs, that means there's going to be extra distance between you and the tile that you're supposed to draw, right? A few seconds, it does add up, right? So you want to be able to draw your tiles smoothly, discard smoothly, instead of kind of reaching out, you know. Just try to save time, right? Also leaning on the table, I used to see that often too. If you lean on the table, unless it's a super sturdy table, the table does tend to wobble, right? You guys encountered that before. It wobbles a little bit, and you don't want any of the tiles dropping and falling from the wall. So prevent anything like that from happening. Don't lean on the table. Also, this kind of going back to, you know, preventing any cheating suspicions. Want to use one hand to draw, one hand to discard, right? It doesn't. Before, back in the day, it used to be, people used to say just use your right hand, but everybody's different, right? Some people are lefties and some people use the right hand. Just try to use one hand, right? If you're a lefty, just use your left hand to draw and to discard. Right? Of course, you have to use both hands when you move the wall or move your hand. So that's all good. But when it comes to drawing and discarding, try to do that with one hand, right? Another CRMA manner etiquette thing that we kind of want to look out for is don't play with your tile when it's not your turn, right? Kind of over exaggerating it here, but if you kind of flip it, right, that makes sometimes an irritating sound to others. I do it sometimes too. If it's, you know, if somebody's taking a little long to figure out what to discard, I get it. It does happen sometimes, but you know, try not to play with your tile. When it comes to discarding your tile, you want to have 6 tiles for each row, right? You don't want it to be kind of scattered. You don't want it to have too many gaps in between. Neatly discard 6 tiles at each time and discard it to the left, right? The first discard should be at the left corner and then followed along like that. I've seen people sometimes discard it in the middle, right? Sure, you know, but CRMA, we don't want to see that. We want everything to be more neatly aligned, right? So try to keep that in mind. It's something small. People could fix it. You could fix it for sure. But yeah, that's just an FYI, right? Next up, let's talk about calling tiles, right? That's pretty important. Let's try to go over that too. So when it comes to calling tiles, you want to make sure that it's in a nice tone. You don't want to yell it for sure, but you don't want to kind of whisper it because people won't be able to hear. Say it at a, you know, moderate tone so everybody could hear. Nice, clear, pong, chi, kan, ron, sumo, all those things that you mention and kind of say during a game, you want to make sure that's loud and clear. Proper order is whatever call you're going to do, call it, show the tiles that you're going to be using to call the tile, take the tile that you're going to be calling, put it to the side, and then discard. That's the proper order, right? You don't want it to mix it up. Now, why do we say that? So if you're at a parlor or Janso where time is, you know, you're charging, you're paying per hour or per minute, whatever it is, you definitely want to speed up the game. So in those scenarios, you'll probably see a lot of people discarding before taking the tile that they drew. That's to speed everything up, and that's totally fine. But CRMA competition rules, we want to make sure that you take the tile that you drew, right, and then discard. We want to prevent any show highs from happening, because if you discard first, at that moment, you're technically show high, right? If you forget to draw the tile that you called, that you supposedly called, and discard first, and the game goes on, you're losing out, right? You're show high at that point. So you want to make sure that once you call the tile, you show your hand or the set that you're going to be calling, taking that tile, whether it be a pong or a chi or kan, put it to the side and then discard. That's a proper order when it comes to CRMA tournament rules. You want to make sure that you do it in that order, right? And definitely say it before you show it, right? Some people For example, if they're going to be calling it anyways, they just show the tiles, don't even say chi or pong, just take the tiles, right? It's kind of obvious at that point what that player is trying to do. But, you know, what if somebody shows the tile and doesn't call it, right? For example, the person you're going in order, obviously it's that person's turn to chi, right? So it's like, I don't have to say chi, it's my turn anyways. If I don't draw the tile, it's up to me if I want to take that previous discard or not, right? So that's the logic, I think. And it kind of makes sense too. But if you just show the tile without calling anything and somebody else calls that tile, overrides that call, or your chi, you're kind of just showing your tile. So that's not only not beneficial for you, but it's additional information for the other people. So it's not really fair. So if you're gonna call, definitely say it first before you show your tiles. Right, while we're on the topic of chi, right? Have you guys ever encountered a situation where a discard happens, you immediately call chi, but somebody calls pong, right? Mahjong rules, pong is higher than chi. That's the order. So when you're planning to chi, give it a second. Make sure nobody is gonna pong, and then call chi, right? Not saying wait eternity for it, you don't have to wait too long, but just give it a one breath and then call chi, right? You don't want any of that confusion to happen. Mainly because if somebody calls a late pong, right, that's actually a dead hand on their end when it comes to CRMA competition rules. Pong should be called immediately. That is a general rule of thumb. And in other words, chi should have a one breath, you know, a second later, just to make sure no one's gonna pong that tile, and then call chi, right? If somebody obviously has a late pong, that is called a jama pong. You're kind of, you know, deliberately messing up somebody's call, somebody's chi. And then, you know, it could be considered strategy, but etiquette, again, this is etiquette and manners. If you're gonna pong, you wanna do it right away. If you're gonna chi, give it a second, right? If somebody clearly does a late pong, and if you're in a CRMA tournament or league situation, call the referee, or discuss it with your peers too, to determine if that pong was actually late or not. Because late pongs that's a no-no. Okay, so that's just an FYI. Right, next up, declaring Riichi. So let's go over the proper way to declare Riichi. Same thing as we've mentioned in how to call tiles section. You want to say Riichi first. Declare Riichi first. Make sure that everybody knows that it's a Riichi. Discard the tile. If somebody rolls that tile, no need to put the Riichi stick on the table, right? So call Riichi first, declare Riichi first, discard. Once everybody sees the discard tile and nobody rolls, then put the Riichi stick on the table. That's the proper order. At the same time, you want to clearly say Riichi first, because sometimes I've seen people do this too. They kind of discard the tile, and once everybody sees that tile, and make sure no one calls it, then they turn the tile and say Riichi, right? We want to prevent that from happening too, right? So that's kind of cheating, right? You definitely want to aim for that ippatsu, right? You want that chance. But if somebody calls that tile, your ippatsu is going to go away. So sometimes I see people kind of saying, oh, you know, no one calls it. Okay, I'm going to call Riichi then, because ippatsu is still there. Mahjong etiquette and manners. Again, this is Mahjong etiquette manners for the CRMA format. Definitely call Riichi before discarding. Another thing is, when you start a new hand, not a new game per se, but a new hand, always make sure that you have at least one Riichi stick. Seeing people, you know, once they say Riichi, it's like, oh wait, I didn't have a Riichi stick. Can you break my 5,000 or 10,000 point stick? When you ask around, and people start digging in their point sticks and say, oh, you know, I don't have it. I was like, oh, let me see. I'll see if I could do it. This takes time. So CRMA tournament format, there's going to be a time limit. You want to have that time limit focused and dedicated to your actual gameplay. To have everything go smoothly, make sure that you have a Riichi stick before the start of each hand. Right, last section, let's talk about winning a hand, what to do when a hand is won, right? When you win a hand, there's really no need to declare what each yaku is, right? Just say the points. right? If there's any confusion, sure, somebody could ask, right? And then you could explain it to them. But for the most part, in general, just say the points won in your hand, right? If it's a ron, mangan, that's not really correct. If it's a ron, 8,000. That's the proper way. No need to say, if it was a Riichi, Pingfu, no need to say any of that. Just say the points. Right. Another thing, if you tsumoed the hand, again, mentioned this earlier too, but don't put your winning tsumo into your hand, right? Just go ahead and put it to the side and say tsumo. That is the proper way to do it when it comes to CRMA standards, right? This is a very minute thing, but this is something that we kind of want to see at CRMA is, if somebody tsumos or rons and you're not involved in that, a lot of people just fold their hand, right? Just face down. Facing down your hand means that you acknowledged the win, that it's valid, the point that was declared is also valid, and then you could say, okay, got it, I understand, or you just put the tiles face down. So make sure, even though you're not directly involved in that maybe ron, right? If whoever tsumoed, you're going to be paying your point sticks, so you're going to have to, you're involved anyways. So you're going to have to check, it's your responsibility and everybody's responsibility to make sure that the point declared by the winner is accurate and correct, right? Not just the people involved, right? If I deal into you and you say it's 8,000, right? For sure, it's my responsibility to make sure that it's an actual 8,000 point hand or not. But it's the other two players' responsibility as well to make sure that it's actually 8,000 or not. Also, if you win, leave all the point sticks on the table until everybody verifies that that is correct, right? Once you verify that everybody has folded their tiles, that acknowledged the amount of points declared is correct and the amount of points that was given is correct, then start putting it back into your point crate, whatever that section is where you put your point sticks. Don't immediately get the point sticks and put it inside the tray, because somebody might say, oh, I might have given you 100 extra or something extra. There's really no proof once it's in the tray. So make sure that everybody has confirmed that it's the right amount of point sticks and then put it in. Right. Last but not least, when exchanging points, do it with the least amount of points possible. That is the most ideal way to exchange points, because if there's too many physical actual point sticks on the table going back and forth, that gives room for error, right? So a good example is if you deal into a 3,900 point hand, right? You've probably seen people before, they give 3 1,000 point sticks, 9 100 point sticks, or maybe 1 500 point sticks and 4 100 point sticks. They want to give 3,900 exact, right? It's all good, it's the actual amount, but when it comes to CRMA tournament style rules, we want to minimalize the amount of physical point sticks going back and forth, right? Try to eliminate as much room for error as possible, right? We don't want a certain type of point sticks going to one person, right? We want everyone to have a nice balance of sticks. That's why we want to have it with the least amount of points going back and forth as possible. Another example, right? Let's say, for example, if somebody draws a Riichi Pingfu Tsumo 1 Dora, right? 4 Han Pingfu Tsumo, so that is a 1326, 1,300 for non-dealers and 2,600 for the dealer. How would you pay? There's different ways to do this, but the least amount of point sticks possible, that is the ideal thing, right? And you want to, if there's definitely going to be change involved, right? So the change, you want everything to be done as much as possible with all the points that were given to you for that win, right? So let's think about this. 1326. One person would give 2,600 points to you. 2 1,000 point sticks, 1 500 and 1 100. And then somebody gives you 1 1,300. What should that other person, the last person who's supposed to give 1,300, do? Some people would just give 1,300. It's all good. It's all good. But think about how many physical point sticks would be on the table at that point. There's going to be a bunch of 100 point sticks going to that winner. It's going to kind of overflow that person's tray to a certain point. And if you give 1,300 exact, that means there's at least 4 sticks involved, right? There's one 1,000 and 3 100s, right? So what's the way to do this? You could give 2,000 points, right? That's 2 physical point sticks, and get 700 in change. Where does that 700 come from, right? You mentioned that the dealer gave 2,600, so 2 1,000 point sticks, 1 500, right? So that's 1 500 there. And you could also get the other 100 point stick, right? Maybe it's easier to kind of put everything on the table. Kind of practice this, right? If somebody wins a hand, a common one, you know, put the actual point sticks that they would or would not kind of put on the table, and try to figure out what the right way to provide change and distribute any change with those, right? Those point sticks on the table. Want to minimize or eliminate any room for error. So this is kind of getting lengthy. There's a bunch more where we could kind of really nitpick and kind of go in detail. But for the most part, again, mentioned this enough times already, but this is for the CRMA, California Riichi Mahjong Alliance tournament video. This is what we're going to be looking at when we judge and we kind of, you know, see how the players in California are doing. And if you guys thought any of the contents were useful, if you guys want to implement some of these rules, etiquettes, and manners into your regular play, by all means, go for it. If you think this is nonsense, if you just want to play casually, by all means, go for it. Nobody is forcing you to do this. This is just an FYI for the CRMA participants. So that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys had, you know, found something new. And yeah, look out for a new series. We're going to be starting a new How to Play Mahjong series, mainly towards beginners. And then, yeah, we'll see what goes from there. So thank you for watching. If you guys haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so. All right, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.